Hello and welcome to the Digital Women Awards. This year, there are many firsts for the Digital Women Awards, which has gone from the space of four walls of a large conference room to, of course, a boundary-less session across 4 or 5 days, bringing women entrepreneurs from Asia, the European countries, America, South America, everywhere involved in some way or the other. Of course, we're also touching many, many further points within the country in India, bringing women to come and discuss how they have managed to nurture the ecosystem themselves. I'd like to introduce three very special guests. I've got with me my co-moderator, Deepshikha from She the People. She's a senior editor and an excellent person when it comes to understanding publishing and the written word. With me is Christine Wang. She leads the Lufthansa Innovation Hub, is an ex-entrepreneur. But like I said, sometimes you're always an entrepreneur, whether you're an intrapreneur in an organization or just setting up your own piece. Zoe-Dean Smith leads entrepreneurship at Vital Voices, which is a stellar network of women globally who are doing tremendous work anywhere from for-profit to social entrepreneurship. And Zoe herself has had a social impact background. We'll also be joined later by Shinta Bubu from Indonesia, Jakarta. But until she comes in, I have so much more to discuss with the two of them here. So Zoe, first off to you. How is Vital Voices really changing the way women see themselves as entrepreneurs?
Thank you so much, Shaylee. One of the beautiful things about the work that we do with women around the world is all of the women that we work with are making significant change in their community and in their society. So in our entrepreneurship space, the majority of women that we work with are social entrepreneurs having a big impact in their community. And that has a ripple effect around the world, you know, in their small societies, and then sort of in some cases their businesses are stretching across geographies, across different countries. So our tagline is invest in women, improve the world. And I'm so thrilled to be a part of an organization that has that focus, that looks for those special ingredients within women who have that passion to make change and to also lead to greater financial independence for themselves and for their families, to create greater opportunities for the next generations.
That's brilliant. As I was promising you, that we'll also have Shinta Dhanuvardoyo joining us from Jakarta. Shinta, thanks very much for being with us. We're discussing global entrepreneurship, and all of these women have had tremendous experience in not just being entrepreneurs themselves, but also in mentoring many other women. Christine, coming to you in Singapore, how has your experience been seeing the startup culture in the space of innovation and tech? What has been the most gratifying part of leading the Lufthansa Innovation Hub?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me here. I think the most gratifying part is really how my team and our team has grown within the pandemic. I think when I think about the industry as a whole, the travel industry, of course, it's like one of the most challenging phases that we have to overcome. And what we really see is like a huge openness for collaboration across the board from within the industry, but also outside the industry, a lot of partnerships, a lot of helping hands. And I think we extend that to startups as well as like startups reaching out to us within the travel and mobility tech space. So I think that's really the gratifying part, to be able to help and at the same time to really exchange and come up with new ideas together.
Shinta, coming to you, you've built such a tremendous enterprise yourself. You've become an angel investor. I love it when women pay it forward and support many others. Your journey in building Bubu.com.
Yes. So I've been in the technology world for 24 years now, because I started Bubu in '96. But I think my story is about always too early for what I've started. So the 24 years, I've done almost everything. Like in early 2000, I've created a number of .com companies, and most of them failed, of course, because it was too early when you talk about early 2000. And then 2008, end of 2008, I started one of the early marketplace in Indonesia. and we were able to joint venture with eBay. But again, 2008 in Indonesia, e-commerce is just way too early. And after e-commerce, my journey took me to venture capital. So I was a venture capitalist, but again, 2011, I think it was also way too early for a VC in Indonesia. So there was probably only like 10 startups to invest for the whole Indonesia at that time. So I did venture capital work for about 2 years and a half, and then that's why I decided, like, okay, after this I'm just gonna be angel investor, mentor to startups, and we also try to help and empower women. End of this year, we're actually launching super women. We call it Super Girls in Tech. Sorry, so it's a incubation for girls on their last years of university. And we want to help them solve a number of issues in the gender-related issues in terms of finance, education, career, and also physical safety. So yeah, so been there, done that.
And doing more. Zoe, looking into your own past as an entrepreneur and now seeing so many vibrant, dynamic women come into the Vital Voices network, how important do you think has the mentorship piece been for women in their journeys? As Shinta was saying, sort of been there, done that, and constantly trying to do more for others.
Shaylee, we believe that mentorship is such an critical part of a women's journey and plays such a large role. We have a number of different programs specifically focused on mentoring in Vital Voices. One of them is our partnership with the State Department and Fortune's Most Powerful Women, where the U.S. embassies around the world nominate women from different countries who come to the U.S. and they spend a month in the US. They spend a week with us where we do a lot of leadership training, communications training, etc. And then they spend about 10 days with a Fortune 500 company being mentored by a global women executive and a community of mentors within that organization. Another program that we have is the Global Ambassadors Program, which is a week-long intervention, bringing sort of 8 to 12 mentor-mentee pairs together, very intensive. It's a combination of mentoring and capacity building. And in both of those cases, I think the most important thing is that the mentees need to know what they do. They need to know what they don't know to ask the right questions. And the minute they do that, you see this explosion of ideas. One of the things that I really love about mentorship is the mentor being able to see things from a helicopter perspective, that 30,000-foot view that the mentee doesn't necessarily see. And that can be incredibly transformational. And what has inspired me so much is watching some of the women who have been mentored, had those great opportunities, then go on to start other organizations, other businesses, or other nonprofits, because they see the opportunity to allow additional time to be more effective in their business, in their for-profit business, and make time to do nonprofit work that benefits their community. So, we have many examples of that, but it is so powerful. Another thing I love is that mentorship is something that can be started at any age. You can have young kids mentoring each other. And I love hearing about mentorship programs, particularly for young boys and young girls. I think that's the start of an incredible journey and can transform their lives.
Thank you, Zoe. Christine, I would like to ask you how women are innovating with sustainability as an objective. What are your thoughts on that?
Maybe I can share a little bit my own entrepreneurial journey. And
Sure.
sustainability, I think, comes in very different forms in my personal view. So definitely one is, kind of like carving or striving for the same type of opportunities. So for my journey, I think I've always been sort of like the oddball out, and I think I've tried very much to like fit in, but actually then realized that I was much more powerful if I were to like choose my own path. And so I think, given that I've lived in like 8 different countries, I speak 6 different languages, and I think what really enabled me, and I think this is something that I would like to like just also share with the audience, is being courageous and not needing to fit into any square, so to speak. And for me, sustainability is almost like following your own path and really being true to yourself. So what it did to me was really being able to, launch a digital health platform in the Chinese market, and a digital health platform actually focused on pregnant women. So the idea was to come up with a device that lets you listen to the heartbeat of the baby during pregnancy, in a market where healthcare, of course, is not at par to compared to like the Western world, and being able to have this like very, emotional connection with the infant, so to speak. And for me, sustainability essentially also means to like create that type of like social value. um, so that's like one experience that I probably wouldn't have done if I wasn't brave enough just to say, hey, I think this is a great idea, why don't we go for it?
That's pretty interesting because, I think sometimes it takes an entrepreneur to know many others and go through those experiences. And I think that also enables you to give back more in a more meaningful way. But Shinta, as a digital trailblazer in Indonesia, how significant has an enabler has digital become? And what are the sort of experiences you're seeing on the ground with women using, let's say, digital to at least get a level playing field to starting out?
I think Indonesia is 17,000 islands, so you have no choice. If you're not in digital, then you won't be able to connect with each other. Especially in this time of COVID, everyone is very much concentrated and focused on the screens, whichever screen it is. So I think a lot of programs has been trying to empower women to actually start using technology based, as easy as using your WhatsApp to actually start business, Messenger or whatever. And so the way I see it is like, when women, why the reason there's not many women in technology in Indonesia is not about because like the women are not capable or anything, but I think it's just more they're not interested in the beginning because they think it's too hard, too complicated. So we just need to create more role model and give examples to women that technology is as easy as it is right now. I mean, these days and age, everything's super easy actually when you talk about technology. And so even the government has been pushing a lot of programs that are empowering women to actually start using technology, and hopefully we see more women can take advantage of just small thing like emails or in Indonesia, because we have such large country and spread out, so small things like email, messengers, those are something that can be very helpful for women to start their own business. And I also would like to share something because since last year we started entering into the world of esports. Esport is gaming in Indonesia. We have about 96 million gamers, around that number, and actually 44% are women. And so since last year we entered esport, we started a women tournament as well, because we see the number are so huge, and there's no tournament just for women. So, and then when you talk about gaming, it's such a man's world, because when the men creating a team, they don't really let women to play together in one team. So that's why we decided to create women tournament and also the men tournament at the same time. And we did something also different from other tournament. We gave same exact prize pool for the men and women, because usually when there's a women tournament, not only in Indonesia but everywhere else, the prize pool for women tournament is like probably 1/10 what the men get. So we try to show that women has the same capability, because when you talk about gaming, you don't need physical. You can just play as long as you're good, you're focused, and you know your game. You can actually beat any man too, actually. So that's the thing. Try to actually empower all type of women related that because the way I see it, gaming has become also some kind of a opportunity that are open for a lot of young people nowadays. Yeah.
Thank you. So, Zoe, our question to you is, how are you seeing women in different countries solve their problems?
That's a very broad question. Actually, one of the things I love about my work is, as I mentioned earlier, the fact that we work with so many women who are social entrepreneurs. So they are solving so many amazing problems. And as I was thinking about this panel, I was trying to think of great examples of women who are doing that. And I have a few that I'd like to share with you. One is an amazing woman by the name of Mavis Nduchwa, who is in Botswana. And she has a company called Kalahari Honey. So Botswana has the largest elephant population in the world. And the elephants are going into farmers' fields and basically destroying their crops. So what they've done is her business is training rural women how to do beekeeping, and they're giving them beehives. And what they're doing in the business is that on the farms, is that they're building the beehives as sort of like a live fence between dividing the elephants from the crops. So you've got a generation of sales of honey, you've got protection of the crops, and the elephants are sort of secure over on their side. That's one example. Another great one. Well, two that I'd like to share. One is in Kenya, and it's a company that I came across a number of years ago when I was on the Katia Women's Initiative Awards, called EcoPost, run by a woman called Lorna Ratto. And what she's doing was working with people living in the slums of Kibera. And they were collecting plastic waste and then transforming this waste into telephone poles and gate posts. So there you're sort of like cleaning up the environment, you're providing income in the slums, and you're also reducing deforestation. So that's another great example. And the ones that probably inspire me the most, and it's sort of a really odd thing, is anyone who's dealing with sanitation and hygiene. And another example in Kenya is a business that was started a number of years ago called Sanergy, which was basically starting sort of like a micro franchise in the slums of providing toilets in the slums with wash hand basins. And the whole idea is that you buy your franchise and you have someone who's trained health worker. So when people come, it's a pay-as-you-go system to use the facilities, but they also get training on the importance of hand washing, et cetera, and that's reducing infant mortality, so many things. So those are the kinds of ideas that really inspire me in terms of social entrepreneurship and how people are really changing the planet. And I think about these as inspiring ideas, particularly for Generation Z that is coming behind us, who already want to start leaving a legacy now when they're young about what do they want to do in this world because they care so much. So these kinds of ideas, I just want to share them with the world.
And it really means a lot because, there are women who are solving for problems across their own countries. And that's what really differentiates the way entrepreneurship is being embraced in countries like India, in the ones that you mentioned, or the ones that, Shinta and Christine talked about. We all have different problems to solve, and it's best if we can have ground up solutions coming in for those. Christine, to you, one of the big pieces that I have, I've had Lufthansa and She the People work for years together on women entrepreneurship. We feel very proud of that association. I really want to know how important is it to have the sisterhood in there, more sort of an ecosystem support from corporations like yours?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a great question. I mean, personally, for me, how I support the ecosystem or how I support women is I actually, what I think is really, really important is sharing experiences as well as like building a foundation of trust and vulnerability. So actually what I've started here in Singapore is a small community of women to really help to break the glass ceiling. And I think that's really, really important, and to really enable them in their journey. And what I mean by that is I think every one of us has dreams. And I think what is sometimes the problem is that people don't push themselves, or women especially, perhaps they feel like they're not good enough, or you have all these different doubts. And this platform that I created was really to bring people together, or women together, in small dinners, and to really share these vulnerabilities, and to share the experience, and also to use this type of platform as an accountability partner. Because oftentimes you dream about something, but then there are a lot of factors for why you think you can't do it. So that's like one way, just an example of how myself, I support the ecosystem, and sort of like created this type of sisterhood. And the reason why I talk about myself is because I think I'm kind of this woman. I mean, I studied computer science. I went into consulting, like management consulting. All my peers were all men. And so for me, it's almost like I've gone onto this journey, and now I'm leading the Lufthansa Innovation Hub Asia. And I think it's been a long way. And I think I never thought of myself as being a girl or a woman, and therefore I cannot do something. I've always tried to like really focus on who I was as a character, and as sort of like a, kind of like trying to push myself forward without actually looking at the gender. And I think that's also very important. And that's also what I typically share in these like dinners, that people should, or a women especially, they shouldn't just like look at their gender and think this is a weakness, but they should look at their personality and all the great things that come along with that. And I think that's really important to highlight.
I think that's a great segue for me to ask Shinta my next question, which is that, Shinta, you and I were at the Google Women Will initiative in Japan. One of the big takeaways from that was that we have to start celebrating women for who they are, for what they bring to the table, rather than constantly seeing how they stack up against, let's say, high levels of funding like men do, etc. We need to start looking at women, what they are making an offer for. Having said that, now leading the VC network, how confident or excited are you about the way investment is flowing into women entrepreneurship-led businesses?
I think I've seen a number of funds that are just concentrated for women, a number of them. And I'm also involved in Asia Venture Philanthropists Network, which is based in Singapore, actually. And we actually I was invited to become one of the founding member for they call it Gender Network. It is also supported by the Gate Foundation. So they're very concentrated, for instance, on the funding for women. So they work with a lot of angel investor, venture capitals who have actually funds that are provided for women-related projects or companies. So I've seen also like, because, I started a platform end of last year called startupindonesia.co, which is a platform to help match startups with venture capitals, with mentors, with angel investors. And, we try to actually invite more women company to be in this platform. That's why we're actually creating that incubation program that we'll be launching end of this year, which is Super Girls in Tech. Is we want to see more women to get involved. Because, if there's no companies that are women-led, then, how can we talk about funding just for women? Because we need to have both, right? If the fund is there, we need the companies as well to be funded. So we want to encourage more women to actually start their own company as well. Yes.
Thank you. So I would like to ask you about your advice to women entrepreneurs and also to other women who, like us, who have business owners in their family or friends. What would, how can we support them?
Support other women companies, or what do you mean?
So no, like as women, I mean, even if we are not a women entrepreneur, but we have people in the family who are friends who are women entrepreneurs, what are the things, how can we support them?
Yeah, I think the question is,
pardon me? The question is what, Siley?
It is for Zoe.
Oh, for Zoe. Sorry.
This question is for Zoe. Sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Well, I was very curious to hear what Shinta was going to say, and I was hoping she was going to say they should seek those investors that you were talking about. It's interesting. One of the things that we find in our programs is that when women come into the program, they have this look like a sort of a deer in the headlights. Like, how did you select me? What did you see in me that I don't see in myself? They don't see themselves as leaders. And as we go through the time that we spend with them and we share what we see that's so incredible about them, you see them also kind of grow in the moment as they realize how much value they bring to society. And so I think what we've already talked about, the idea of having mentors, finding people to help you grow is a really important one. And identifying really positive role models, surrounding yourself by people who are positive where you're learning. And a lot of the time we talk about sort of like energy vampires. You know, who are the people who are in your circle that are not helping you move forward? And maybe it's time to kind of spring clean those people out of your life and have the positive, powerful people. And in terms of mentorship, I think also sometimes people don't ask for mentorship because they're too scared to ask. But I think if you're clear about where you want to go, and there's somebody in your community who you think has that knowledge, I would encourage people to reach out to that person and say, you know, you don't know me, but I know you. Here's why I really admire you. There's one question I'd love to ask you. May I spend 30 minutes? May I buy you a cup of coffee and learn from that? So I think those kinds of surrounding yourself and having that approach of how can I grow and who do I need around me to help me grow are really important. I also do want to give a quick shout out here on the subject of mentorship to Sarika Bhattacharya, who I know you had in the program throughout this week, who is such an incredible role model of mentorship. And in fact, Vital Voices awarded her a Global Leadership in Mentoring award a number of years ago. So she's a great example, and the BD Foundation is a great example of women who are doing that. So I would say seek out where are those organizations or small groups of other people that can help you grow.
Okay, that's right. Sarika was with us here just a couple of days ago on the Digital Women Awards and Summit. I'm going to take closing comments from Christine and then give the final word to Shinta. Christine, you know, I know it's never easy to ask somebody what's their advice to the younger self, but I think taking from where Zoe said how women can sort of stand up for themselves more and more, what would you say would be your advice?
Yeah, first of all, I wanted to shout out to Zoe as well, because I really truly want to underline her point of like finding those mentors and actually building that support network is super important. Actually, from really taking up all three roles at an early age, whether you are seeking peers that are very similar to you, so you are feeling like you're not going on this journey alone, by seeking role models, whether male or female, but really people you feel like you can learn from. But at the same time, also wearing the head of a mentor yourself and really helping to nurture the younger ones that are coming after you, I think is so powerful, because I think one of the things that I've personally learned, which I think is very important, is to really find your own voice and to really find your own authenticity, and at the same time to always be courageous and really not tell, like, actually the sentence I want to leave you guys with is no is just a beginning of a conversation. If somebody says no to you, try to find out why they say no, and really like be persistent. For example, a friend of mine, she's currently an entrepreneur in Berlin. She was reaching out in her network to find help for her pitch deck to really tell the story, and she was really struggling. And one of the professors she reached out to from her school actually said no, because he said, well, he doesn't have time. And so really, I was like, hey, why don't you ask why he doesn't want to, and how can he, or ask the question, what does it take to turn this no to a yes? And I think then this is actually the conversation you want to have. And so no is only the start of a conversation, is I think the advice I want to give tonight or this morning.
Brilliantly put. Brilliantly put. Okay, Shinta, to you. A lot of us are sort of inhibited by asking. As I always say, women have to raise their hand, sometimes for promotion, sometimes for their space, sometimes for a queue, all of that. So your suggestion or growth hack to jostle your way in and get your work done.
I think what growth hack is actually just do it. If you have an idea, just execute it. For me, sometimes I think we women think too much. Like sometimes we feel like, oh, I don't want to fail, so I don't want to start. So for me, if you have an idea and you're passionate about it, just do it, execute it. And then for me, failure is actually part of any journey. Because if you don't fail, for especially for entrepreneur, I think failure is part of the journey and it's part of an investment that we do. When we fail, it's our investment for the future because we learn to know better how to do things. So don't be afraid. Just do it, and everything will come in place, and do something that you're so passionate about at the end of the day. Yeah.
I think that's a great way for us to conclude this discussion. And I would just say this much, like find your own voice in your voices and in your silence, and go out there, talk about it, find somebody else to talk about it for you, find the mentors. And of course, just take a chance on yourself. Thank you, Christine. Thank you, Zoe. And thank you, Shinta, for joining us, despite their hours in your own countries, to just help us build this sisterhood. And know that we can learn from many others across boundaries and across the world.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.